I was on a cruise ship for Thanksgiving with my entire family. As an attempt to get away from my brothers, I stayed in my grandparents' cabin. On the first day of the cruise ship, I walked around meeting people, and some of the people I met were really into basketball just like me. We set up a scrimmage last night so we could eat all the dinner and whatnot. The only problem was that the basketball courts closed at 7, so we would have to sneak in. My little group was playing every day and became my late night routine. Skip forward to the last night on board, where my group was playing a pickup game as we always did. I felt a buzz from my pocket, so I stopped playing for a second and I read my text message. It was from an unknown number saying go check on your grandparents. So not thinking twice, I said goodnight to my friends and went down to my floor. After the long walk and the elevator ride, I made it onto my floor. I arrived on the complete opposite side of my room, so it was a long walk. As I was walking, I saw this tattooed man staring at me on the left side of the room. I'm a paranoid person, so of course I admittedly thought something was going to happen. We walked past each other, and there was no problem. But he stopped and he said, "Excuse me, did you see the gentleman who came out of this room?" And I replied, "No." The mini conversation was over. We both went on our ways, or so I thought. I took a glance behind myself, and I saw that he was walking in my direction. I sort of slowed down to see if he would pass me, but he got close enough, and I said, "Oh, I'm such an idiot. My room is on the other side." The creepy man looked a little angry and said, "You're lying. Your room is at the front. Here, let me take you to your grandparents." My face turned white. However, I knew what would lie ahead if I went with him, so I took off running. I looked behind to see if he was chasing me, but he wasn't. I stopped running and started walking. I was relieved until I heard loud footsteps, so I looked behind myself once again, and it was the man chasing after me, and so I started to run again. The man caught up and grabbed me, but for some reason I was so scared that I couldn't let out a single scream. I was hoping someone would come out of their rooms to save me, but like I said previously, it was the middle of the night, and nobody was around. He took me to this room where there was no furniture. I looked in and there was this woman sitting on the ground in the shadows. I could tell she was easily overweight. The guy shoved me in and told the lady that my shift is over. I'm going to sleep. The dark figure nodded. Again, I was still in complete shock. My legs felt like 300-pound weights. The woman grabbed me and said, "I'm getting married soon, so this is the last amount of fun I'm going to have." Don't forget, I was a minor at the time. My vision was fading in and out. I thought I was going to collapse, but suddenly, the buffet was coming up in my stomach and I threw up all over her. After that, I left the room and sprinted all the way to my parents' room. Grandparents, that is. I got in there, double-bolted the locks. My grandparents woke up and said, "Was everything okay?" And I was thinking, let me spill my guts over what just happened. However, I said the security guard found my friends and I playing basketball, so we all ran from him. They said, "Okay," and went back to sleep. Meanwhile, I just stayed in the bathroom all night. Not because of what I ate earlier, but because I was really scared. The guy must have been stalking me and saw me go to my room with my grandparents over the view on board. So I was really freaked out, thinking he knew my room number. I stayed up all night, but there were no problems. My family created a plan to go to brunch in the dining hall, so we all got up at 8 and went there. The waiter was taking us to our seats. I was scanning the area when I noticed the same man who chased me yesterday, with an overweight woman and a couple of other goons. They saw me too, so they all started staring at me. My whole family went to be seated, but I was in the middle of a staring contest. Luckily, my mom saw me and saw what was going on. My mom looked at me and then looked at the table and said, "The guy with all those tattoos proposed to the girl a few nights back." I said out loud, "What the actual freak?" My mom hit me again and said, "Watch your mouth and go sit down." I ended up sitting down, so my back was to the table of the creeps. I never said a word about what happened that night, and I don't plan on telling my family because I'm worried that they won't be taking me on vacation with them anymore. However, I was texting a few friends from the basketball courts, and I told them what had happened that night. One of them said, "I was chased by the same man. However, I was able to outrun him before he caught me." I was a bit relieved that I got that off my chest, and I wasn't alone in my situation anymore. I still didn't decide to tell anyone, though. I really don't understand how those people got my phone number. It's kind of creepy. This happened a while ago. I lived in the woods with the same neighbors my whole life. Never once had any issues here. The kind of neighborhood where we all left our doors unlocked 24/7, so I never had any reason to feel unsafe here. It was during Thanksgiving break in high school, and my cousins were staying with us for a few days. My cousins and I hadn't seen each other for a while, so we decided to go for a walk one night and catch up and talk about things we couldn't say in front of the other older people. As we were walking back, a van passed us, and I told my cousin to just step off the road and into the forest just in case the van doesn't see us and runs us over or something. So the van passes, and we go back onto the road. Then I hear it coming to a screeching stop, and it starts backing up really fast. We're only about 300 yards from my house, so I tell my cousin to run as fast as she can towards my house. And I remember taking out my phone and trying to dial 911, but my fingers were so cold and numb that I couldn't even get my iPhone to unlock. As we were sprinting back, the van suddenly stops and then starts driving away again, which, thank God, because I really thought we were about to be kidnapped. I'd even seen the van before on my street, which made it even more unnerving. It was windowless and had a lightning bolt in the side of it. I had no idea why it stopped or why it decided to back up towards us. But I'm just thankful that something made them decide to stop, whatever they were going to do to us teenage girls that night. I hope I never see those guys again. So I'm a male nurse at a large hospital in San Francisco. I work in the ER, and it was a very busy Thanksgiving night. Now, my wife is also a nurse at the same hospital that I work in. The only difference is that she works in labor and I work in delivery. Between babies being born left and right and the people coming into the ER, we hadn't had a chance to take a break together as we tried to do every shift. So when she called, I figured it was to say she wanted to meet up for a bite to eat in the cafeteria. When I answered, I heard in the background a male voice screaming profanities at my wife, and she is fluent in Spanish. She was trying to calm this guy down. She told me their pager wasn't working and they needed security, stat. I quickly hung up and called for security and told my fellow nurses what was going on, and I ran for the labor and delivery, worried that someone would hurt my wife. When I ran into the area, I almost square smack dabbed into this visibly angry man. He wasn't huge, but he definitely worked out, and not at the gym. He was covered in prison tattoos and he was obviously a banger. I work out regularly too, but I knew I couldn't kick this guy's butt. He looked at me. He gave me this sick grin and started heading towards me, sprouting off in Spanish. I don't speak fluent Spanish, but what I could understand scared the living crap out of me. I'm backing up as fast as I can. I start buzzing the door to the ER frantically for them to let me in. This guy was literally a foot away from me and the door opens and I'm pulled into safety by a doctor. The gangbanger punches the door a few times, making a dragging sign across his throat while grinning at us both. The next thing I knew was that the police rushed into the corridor that the guy was in, and it took 2 security officers and 2 cops to subdue this guy. I finally made it to my wife, who thankfully was shaken up but unhurt. She explained to me what happened. A young girl only 14 came in, high fever, vomiting, distended belly. The banger claimed he was her brother and they needed to cut her open to get her baby. They did an ultrasound, and to their horror, they realized that she wasn't pregnant. She had bags of drugs found in her stomach. It was very common for drug mules to bring over young women from Mexico, carrying drugs that way. Homeboy freaked out when they informed him his sister needed emergency surgery. And no, he wasn't getting his drugs. Thankfully, the girl survived. The only sad thing is that she would most likely be deported once she recovered.